All right, this is gonna hurt. All right, I'm Kelly, Wyoming, Grand Teton National Park. It's a beautiful day, kind of moody. The wildlife are out. And I just got in a nice, long, easy, flat warm up because I've got a huge climb right out of the gate here. Anytime I get an opportunity this time of year to hit trails, I'm at it before the snow falls, and got a huge climb, over 15% grade. The purpose of this today, though, is to really continue to work on my cadence. Running something this steep, you're gonna have to have high cadence just to be able to run up. And normally at a race or at a longer run, this would be a hike, but today's purpose is to continue to work on getting off my feet and cadence, and then enjoy the trail once I get up on top of the ridge. And we'll should have some nice views if the clouds kind of separate a little bit, but let's go. Bam. There she is in the background. All right, the key is to stay patient and to continue to try to make it as easy as possible for as long as possible with quick feet. And to get a little breather here, some recovery before another kick up. So that first grade was just under 100 meters and 150 feet gain in 100 meters. All right, that's the first little summit. I've got 0.6 miles, 450 feet gain in 0.6 miles. So my legs are feeling it. Another reason why I do occasionally run very steep hills like this, other than from a strength standpoint, is that many runners use their ankles to push off too much. And that's not a very strong movement or usage of muscles. What's stronger is using your entire leg to apply force into the ground to go uphill. Mainly your glutes, instead of, again, relying on a lot of push off with your ankle. And doing something this steep really forces you to have to provide force with your entire leg and drive force and power from your hip and glutes, which is key from a strength standpoint and from a muscle equilibrium standpoint. So another good reason. So all right, we got a little bit of rolling, and then we're gonna start climbing again and then get along this ridge and go all the way along the ridge. It's not a super long run today, but very challenging. A lot of river rock makes this part slow, even though we're going downhill. Pretty slow course in general, but good strength. Gonna have one more long climb, longer than what we just did, but not as steep. And then we'll be up on top of the ridge and nice and rolly in the trees, beautiful. And we'll talk more about what you can do over the winter, early ultra running season to improve your ability. And this time of year, I have the place to myself. Here's our climb. Whew. The most important thing when looking to improve your climbing is to be patient. If you're not patient, you find yourself getting frustrated, you're trying to go too hard, and that defeats the purpose of becoming a more efficient climber. All right, that's pretty much the climb. I'm almost on the top of the ridge. We're hitting the trees, and now things are just gonna flow. It's just gonna be awesome. Get into a good rhythm all the way to the other side. So I'm on Blacktail Butte, like I said, Grand Teton National Park. And this was prime real estate for the Native Americans, namely the Shoshone or the sheep eaters. And they would come up on here to scout wildlife because you can, it's easy to get a 365-degree view of the hole or the valley, so they could really scout antelope, bison, elk. And there's also a very unique type of rock that is up here that they would use as tools and utilities for eating and just running their everyday life. So they would come up here quite often, but they would, their main camp would be closer to the Snake River, which is right behind me or just west of here, closer to the Teton Range. So, all right, let's flow. Got some ravens surfing in the wind. You can see our snow levels, and just over there behind the clouds is Grand Teton. Ultra racing, let's go. All right, the previous video I mentioned I started to take on new athletes for 2022, and I have one gentleman who DNF'd last year in his 100-mile race and contacted me and wanted to get some help with coaching. And we're going to start in December. His race is not until September of 2022. So we have a lot of time relative to the specificity of ultra 100-mile training. Therefore, it's my number one goal is to analyze how good his raw speed is. I've talked about this before. What I consider raw speed is, what is your mile time? And many ultra runners who have come into the sport as a newbie to racing in general, they may have just jumped right to the 100-mile distance. And I'm not saying this gentleman has, I'm just using this as a general statement. But this is a common issue I see, is that since the popularity of ultra running, everybody's kind of jumping into longer distances and coming into that without a lot of background of running and racing. Many runners who are not able to make cutoffs or are having a hard time finishing aren't fast enough to be able to run easy enough at their 100-mile or their ultra. And so this is one of the first things I really analyze, and I have them do a timed 1-mile test to get us going, just to actually formulate training zones, but also to see what is their mile time, what is their raw speed relative to how well they want to do at a race. Okay, so that's going to be the first thing I do, is that, is he fast enough to achieve the times and the goals he wants? And if he's not, early season, we will work on improving his mile time and improving his speed, so that translates across the board. So I always use the marathon as an example. If a runner wants to run a 3-hour marathon, they have to be able to run faster than 6-minute mile pace for a 1-mile time trial. Okay, that translates. Same with ultra running. So the number one thing I look at is that what's their raw ability, which allows me to know what their potential is for that 100 miles. And then we work from there. The other thing we do early season is that many times when runners are having a hard time going as fast as they want to, or doing a lot of vertical or a lot of mountain miles, is that they get slow, and due to the nature of the ups and downs, we very rarely are able to get in a steady, easy effort that creates efficiency. So early season, I will have ultra runners spend a lot of long, easy time on flat terrain to develop this efficiency, and then take that to more and more mountain running as the season progresses, as in some cases the snow melts and we're able to get up higher and higher and closer to the race. So again, if you're running too many trails and too many mountain miles without much long, flat running, you're gonna eventually become inefficient at that steady effort. And that's what we'll do early season. Third, we will work on a lot of form, and that comes with also the flat, long running that I just spoke of, but also the hills that we do. The uphills will be short and strong. Talked a lot about that. Good strength, good force work. But then we will also work on the downhill, and early season, the only thing we focus on the downhill is having proper foot strike. So it becomes a form of strength training, eccentric loading with good foot strike. Okay, wonderful strength training. And secondly, their neuromuscular system gets used to having good form on the downhill. So then that translates to, once again, we get to more and more mountains, more and more trails. They have good form, they're using their muscles in an appropriate way, and this doesn't become a dysfunctional part of more and more miles in the mountains. So essentially they're running better and taking advantage of the downhill when we can go faster in an appropriate, good biomechanical way. Okay, so those are just some of the things that go through my mind when I'm starting with a new athlete, hitting 100-milers, or anything ultra running, ultra racing. So, all right, my nose is starting to run. It's starting to get cold. Can't cool down too much, so I'm gonna head out the trail. Thanks for following along, and we'll see you next time. It's always the going down that really demonstrates how steep this approach was, and the wind is pushing me downhill. This is the grade that's just almost as slow going down as it's coming up.